Properties of operation and integers. So the first one is this one. 1 plus 2 is equal to 3. How about if we're going to interchange 2 and 1? 2 plus 1 is equal to 3. So this property tells us that 1 plus 2 is the same as 2 plus 1. So the difference is you're just going to interchange the addends. So this is what we call the commutative property of addition. So A plus B is equal to B plus A. If you're just going to interchange them, they will still have the same answer. For multiplication, 1 times 2 is it the same with 2 times 1? 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 1 is 2. So if you interchange them, the factors, they will still have the same product. So that's the commutative property of multiplication. A times B is the same as B times A. The next property is associative property. So this associative property is illustrated by this example. So 1 plus 2 plus 3 is equal to, if we're going to add 1 plus 2 first, 1 plus 2, 3 plus 3, which is equal to 6. How about if we're going to start with 2 plus 3? If we're going to start with 2 plus 3, so it will become 1 plus 2 plus 3, 5. Are we going to have the same result? 6. 1 plus 5 is 6, so we have the same result. So the associative property of equality or associative property of equality tells that if you're going to change the grouping of the addends, it will just have the same answer. If we'll start with A plus B, it will have the same answer if we're going to start with B plus C. The next property is this one. 1 times 2 times 3. If we'll start with 1 times 2, we will have 2 times 3, which is equal to 6. How about if we're going to start with 2 times 3? So we're just going to copy 1. 2 times 3 is 6. 1 times 6 is 6. So 1 times 2 times 3 is just the same as, unahin natin itong 1 times 2, the same pa rin kapag unahin natin ang 2 times 3. So that's the associative property of multiplication. A times B times C is the same as A times B times C if we're going to start with B plus C. The next property of operation is what we call the identity property. Why is it identity? So 1 plus blank is equal to 1. So this is identity because we're going to have the same result as the number that we have added. So what are we going to add to 1 so that the answer would still be 1? So it's 0. Very good. Negative 1 plus blank is equal to negative 1. It's 0. So identity property of addition is A plus 0 is equal to A. That's identity property of addition. Next, 1, or let's have 4 times blank is equal to 4. So it's identity because the same number. So we have this as 4 and we have also the product as 4. So what number are we going to multiply to 4 so that the answer would be 4? Yes, it's 1. So 4 times 1 is equal to 4. It's the same with 4 times negative 1 and negative 4 rather. It will have the same result. What number are we going to multiply it with negative 4 so that the answer will be negative 4? It's still 1. So the identity property states that if you multiply a number by 1, the result would be that number. That's the identity property of multiplication. It's identity because they have the same result. Next, the inverse. Identity is the opposite of inverse. So this is the number that we added so that it will going to have the same result. So what number are we going to add so that we're going to have the number 0? That's the inverse property. So it's negative 1. Very good. That's negative 1. If it is negative 2, it's... what are we going to add to negative 2 so that the answer would be 0? Ang add natin ay 2, positive 2. So if you could see, it's the negative of the number would, if we're going to add the negative of the number, it would have the 0 as the result. So inverse property of addition, a plus negative a is equal to 0. The inverse property of multiplication, in the identity we had 1, in the inverse 1 or 2. What are we going to multiply to 2 so that the answer would be 1? What number are we going to multiply to negative 2 so that the answer would be 1? It's 1 half. It's 1 half. It's 1 negative 1 half. So because it's positive is positive, negative times negative is positive. So it's 2 times 1 divided by 2 is equal to 1. So inverse property of multiplication is you're going to multiply the reciprocal of the number so that you're going to have 1 as the result. So this is what we call the reciprocal or the multiplicative inverse. Next, the multiplication property of 0 or the zero property of multiplication. So what number are you going to multiply to 0 so that to 2 rather, so that the answer would be 0? Anong i-times mo sa 2 para mag 0? It's 0. Negative 2 times 0 is 0. So any number multiplied by 0, the answer is 0. That's the multiplication property of 0 or zero property of multiplication. The last property is distributive property of multiplication. Distributive property of multiplication is like this: 2 times 1 plus 3. Is it the same with... there are two processes we're going to do. First is we're going to multiply this. So 2, we're going to add this first. 1 plus 3, which is 4, which is equal to 2 times 4 is 8. What if we're going to distribute? Ibig sabihin, ang 2 i-times mo sa 1 muna, tapos i-plus mo sa result ng 2 times 3, or 2, 1 plus 3 is equal to, is it equal to 2 times 1 first? 2 times 1 plus 2 times 3. So 2 times 1, it's 2, plus 2 times 3, it's 6. 2 plus 6 is equal to 8. So ibig sabihin, 2 times 1 plus 3 is the same as 2 times 1 plus 2 times 3. You distribute. So distributive property of multiplication over addition is A times B plus C is equal to A times B plus A times C.